Welcome back to another episode of the Mountaineer Report here, brought to you by WVU Sports Now. I am Mike Asti, and that is Ethan Bock, and we are now post another Neal Brown press conference, another week of fall camp, and that new season is very much on the horizon, Ethan. Kind of upset that I'm losing summer as the weather and everything about summer is leaving us. But that new season kickoff of the Penn State game, August 31st, it is fast approaching about 2 weeks from now. And it is a business-like attitude for the Mountaineers. We're going to touch on what was said and what happened at a recent scrimmage, and maybe why Neal Brown didn't appear all that thrilled to be talking with us at his media session on maybe a less than exciting scrimmage that occurred for the Mountaineers. So we kind of will start there, Ethan. Now, we know that they got left out of the AP poll, and we put a pin in there because they got left out of the coaches poll. And we did discuss they feel slighted, but it's probably better for the program to motivate themselves, etc. But Brown said that they were inconsistent, especially on offense in the scrimmage. He mentioned in practices leading up to the scrimmage that sometimes the offense would dominate, sometimes the defense would dominate, but there was inconsistency in the scrimmage, and it also was more even. What does that say to you? Is there concern now that they didn't put it together in a game? Is it meaningless because it was a scrimmage?
It's going to be a concern for the coaches. Even if that scrimmage went perfect, I think that's right. I think it never can be perfect for any coaching staff. So for Neal Brown to find some holes within his team during a scrimmage, it would be concerning for him. I think when you look at it, though, this entire program has had a nice long calendar year of just up and coming success, and they had a boring off season, but that's a great thing now.
Good for them. They want a boring off season.
Yeah. So I think going into the scrimmage now, Coach Brown and his staff really are finding the holes within their team that may be inconsistent. And it's concerning when you look at the schedule of how it just kicks off with Penn State. And then an FCS team you can't look past before the backyard brawl.
Right. It's not a slouch FCS program, no.
And then once you start Big 12 play, you have a nice little mini gauntlet of those ranked teams that got into the poll. So up until mid-October, late October, it's going to be really telling with that strength of schedule right there of where the team's going to end up in November. So they have time to fix stuff. For where Neal Brown thinks the holes are, but I don't think I think it's just coaches talk. I think they were going to find something inconsistent regardless.
Yeah. Probably that's the case. They're always going to try to find something. Nothing is perfect. It's the same thing as telling the team, "Hey, we're being slighted, we're being doubted. You still got to prove something after doing it last year." Where they're also telling the players, yeah, don't read PFF. Don't read social media. You're not perfect. We're not perfect. You got holes. You got issues still. You got flaws. It's the same vibe that to start off spring, if you remember, Tyler Allen sat down in his first press conference and said, I've been reading PFF too. I don't agree. I don't think Green's as good as they say he is. And that's paraphrasing. But he basically told his exact position player, nah, you got a lot to work on. Stop reading media and the fans, because you're not where they think you are. And I think part of that is not to be mean, but it probably was to check his ego and say, hey, we got to get to work. So that's kind of probably what Brown is bringing to the table as well from a scrimmage, but there might be a little bit of a concern, maybe a 5% concern, just because you want to see what you see in practice during the scrimmage. But Brown did also mention, as I alluded to at the top, as a head coach, is not the same as being an assistant or a coordinator in terms of what you want to see. Obviously, Jordan Leslie, Chad Scott, the assistants, Jordan Leslie wants to see his defense dominate and play with their hair on fire and be like they were in the Pitt game last year. He wants to see that every practice, every scrimmage. But that's not good for the coach if your defense is not allowing the offense to move the ball. The coach, the head coach, wants to see kind of even keel. Both one has success, the other has success. Maybe there's inconsistency on both sides because both units are good. It could mean both units are good. It could also mean both units are bad. We don't know. We won't really know until the season kicks off. But Brown did kind of wrap it up by saying it's not really a bad thing for him, as you're saying, because he doesn't want to see one unit dominate the other too much. And that was happening leading up into the scrimmage. So maybe the defense is better than people think too. Maybe that's part of it as well. And that's part of the inconsistency of the offense. There's also a lot of unknowns still going on. Another unknown yet on the field for the Mountaineers is Jaden Bray, who we did get to talk to as well. His first press conference since joining the squad. He comes over from Oklahoma State. He's within the Big 12, transferring after being a hometown kid, grew up an Oklahoma State fan, had a relative that was an Oklahoma State athlete, goes there, plays in the Big 12 title game for them, a part of the offense, but not the star. And now he's transferring to hopefully be the focus. He said he's coming to be the focus. He even said that was a priority over winning. He likes that they just won. He wants to win a Big 12 title and not go to the title game and lose like with OSU. But it was about being the focus, getting to the NFL. He seems like a very driven and mature player, to be honest. A lot of other players said that he was quiet and it was hard to talk to him, and he's very soft-spoken. He's soft-spoken, but I don't think he's quiet. He had a lot to say, honestly. Anything for you on the strategy of taking your top receiver and making him such a focal point on special teams as well? And that's going to mean tackling and doing kind of what Bryce Ford Wheaton did and getting down and dirty. Is that a risk for you? Do you like the Jaden Bray embraces that? Do you think that's part of maybe taking away from the offense and what he can do there? And is he the wide receiver one potential for you? We both said that we believe it's Hudson Clement right now, but Bray's talking like the program kind of told him he would be the one when they recruited him.
I think for any wide receiver in any program that wants to do special teams, as long as they're for it and they're going to be a team player about it and not pout about having to play special teams as well on top of the offense, I don't think it's an issue. Like you said, Neal Brown's done it before with his receivers. So if these guys are bought into it, there's no problem at all. As far as Jaden Bray's just, I guess, path WVU is interesting. Like we talked about before the show, playing at Oklahoma State for a couple of years. Yeah, grew up a Cowboy fan, but to transfer to a Big 12 school to try to either get his pro stock up, get his name more out there. I think this program's perfect for that, especially at the receiver core. If you want to, under this offense, just get more reps.
The door's open, and the offense is experienced, and Green's back, and it's almost like a little bit of an indictment of the Oklahoma State program, a very similar program geography-wise, culture-wise, historic-wise, for him to kind of feel like he's more of a focal point guy and will get more attention at WVU versus Oklahoma State. I mean, people nationally might argue if that's the case or not.
He's also just staying in the top conference, top 4 conference in the country. So
yeah.
It's a nice risk for him. I don't think there's much to lose off of that if you want to stay in the Power 4, Power 5. Same with Justin Robinson, and even last year Devin Carter. Like he didn't really just come out of nowhere and drop 800, 900 yards with stats weren't pretty. But at the same time, he still was able to get wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 looks. So for Bray and Robinson, I think that's their opportunity as transfers. And then you mix that with the guys the receivers that come back from last season.
And what I also think helps the offense, separate from whether they're 1, 2, who ends up as the X, who's outside, who's getting big plays, all of that. And they're going to get their chances, but there's a lot of players that want their chances too. Traylon Ray could be a stud and step up. He could really take his game to another level. Hudson Clement, we've talked about ad nauseum. Who knows how much Rodney Gallagher will get on offense. He's also obviously taking snaps on defense, but if he gets offensive looks that I know from his camp they think he's still going to get, that's another player taken away. The running backs are receivers too. Cole Taylor, there's a pass-catching tight end. Even Traylon Davis sometimes Traylon Davis sometimes gets some looks too. So a lot of weapons for Green. It's all a good thing. It's maybe hard for one to fully stand out. I think that was the issue with Devin Carter last year. But what I think really helps the offense is the fact that Justin Robinson and Jaden Bray, like Cole Taylor, are all big body pass catchers who can really help the red zone offense. That's something that the Mountaineers still struggle with a little bit last year. They would score on big plays, but once they got down there, they knocked on the door, wouldn't always get it in 20 yards to pay dirt. And now when you have more than just Cole Taylor, who's a big body tight end who can be a pass catcher, you also have two receivers that are very similar in size, if not bigger. They got a lot of red zone threats now that Green can just throw it up and one of them can win a lot of one-on-ones. So that could be a big deal for the offense. That doesn't have to all be feast or famine big plays or Green trying to scramble outside and make something. They can actually methodically drive down the field and then from the red zone on actually score. These guys kind of fit that. So regardless of who's the wide receiver one in phrase or position or depth chart, and I think you probably know, Ethan, a lot of these depth charts, when we get that first one for Penn State, what's Brown going to do? It's going to be Hudson Clement or Jaden Bray or Justin. It's going to be all ored up. They're going to ore it up to death.
Favorite word. That's Neal Brown's favorite word.
It's going to be the only person who won't have an or is Green will be QB1. Everyone else is going to be even the running backs. It's White or CJ Donaldson, and I think we all know kind of White has become that one. So it's going to be ored up to death. No one's going to really know where anybody stands. It's kind of what they want right now. But red zone wise, it'll be interesting who's the focal point, who they go to, how much this takes away from Cole Taylor because he wants 50 catches. He didn't get it last year, and now they got more red zone threats. It feels like you're taking away his numbers.
And Taylor should be that first option pass red zone threat.
He should be, yeah, 100%. But they also have two more now, in Justin Robinson and Jaden Bray, that can kind of do the same thing as receivers as well. But Cole should have a big year too. I think another year with Green, he's kind of made to be a red zone threat for sure.
Yeah, this offense for Garrett Green it's great for him. He has a lot more options, like you said. Now he actually has guys who could be red zone options.
Yeah,
but for also all these receivers now, there's only one ball. Same with Jaheim White.
That's what I'm kind of alluding to. Yeah.
Green may not be great for the rest of the guys. So
right.
It's going to be interesting to see how Garrett and the coaching staff as well, just how they kind of balance everything out, and if they try to keep people happy or if they just say screw it and whatever gets touchdowns, whatever wins games, and figure out the morale just later in the year and going into the off season.
Yeah, and speaking of morale, as that's kind of a segue here of what we can end the show on. There's obviously been a positive morale in terms of the vibes being good. The program's in a much better spot than it would have been a year ago when it was a funeral atmosphere and everyone was on the hot seat. They kind of know positions, they're more stable, etc. And obviously there's also a chip on the shoulder of the players and coaches because they're still not getting ranked in these major polls, even though they ended 2023 in one of them. But what I also have found interesting, and it's really become evident in recent days, and it even goes, speaking on Jaden Bray, he also was asked to compare Neal Brown and Mike Gundy, and obviously they're two polar opposite personalities. You can kind of just guess how it would be different. But he gave a quick no comment, and he actually asked, hey, can I give a no comment? Is that okay? And obviously we can't tell a guy it's not. So he gave a no comment on that. You can read into it however you want, and whether there's an issue with Mike Gundy, it is kind of weird for a kind of a legacy fan of the program to be there and go to one of the other programs that maybe could win a Big 12 title while they're still trying to win. If I'm an Oklahoma State fan, I kind of would be mad at this guy. And he says he hasn't seen any pushback, but he's aware that he's probably getting it because he's not looking at social media right now. But he gave a no comment. Green, Jaheim White, CJ, whoever, Sean Martin on defense, Anthony Wilson, they all were sitting there when somebody would ask them about Penn State or Pitt. Pittsburgh media joined us for a press conference or two and was asking them about the back care brawl and what it means to them. Brown was even asked this. And they kind of either danced around it, didn't give literal no comment, but didn't answer it. And a lot of time they would say, hey, Penn State's still 3 weeks away. We're worrying about tomorrow. Or Pitt's not week 1. We'll worry about Pitt when we get there. It's a very business-like attitude, and it's really developing more so the last few days and weeks, even more so than it was early in fall camp. It's a New England Patriots type of vibe. It's on to Cincinnati. It's on to the next week. It's on to Tuesday. They're not worrying about the backyard brawl in the middle of the season. And Ethan, I'll tell you, even a year ago, after they're coming off the loss to Pitt, they were talking about wanting to get revenge on Pitt in early August, and that was a month plus away. That's not the situation now. Do you like this business-like attitude from the team, or do you maybe think they're acting a little too stiff and almost entering press conferences like they're mad at something before anything is said? It could go one way or the other. Where do you stand on this new New England Patriots like vibe that they are really kind of embracing as we really see this new season coming up fast?
I think for this season, it's a good thing. Like last year, they going into the year, like you said, it's a funeral atmosphere. They wanted to get revenge on Pitt.
Yeah.
You could argue it's kind of the same thing this year at Penn State, especially hosting at home.
Yeah.
But I think it's more so they're not ranked in any of these polls after 9 wins. They had a nice bowl win against North Carolina. They're still not in the top 25. So I think to them, it's more so beating
good off season. You mentioned it. Yeah. Transfers. They kept everybody around. Yeah.
It's more so beating Penn State at home, proving to the rest of the on Fox, on national TV, beating Penn State and just proving to everybody that they're going to be a good team this season, rather than just winning a rivalry game. And so I can totally understand why they're not looking at the backyard brawl. They have Penn State and Albany right before that. And I think that New England, Bill Belichick kind of vibe that they're giving in the press conferences is for this season, it's a good thing. Last year, probably not. I think this year it makes more sense why they're acting like this.
I do think fans should like it because they started off the fall camp saying our goal is winning a Big 12 title. Individual goals aside, we know that if we win, they'll all take care of themselves. Green on down, they all said it. And even Jaden Bray, who's a newcomer, he said today, my goal, it's not number of catches, it's not different things. Even though I'm here and my focus is to be a better player and be a focus of an offense, I want to win, and we're all looking for a Big 12 title. Tyron Bradley said the same thing, Sean Martin, etc. We've all talked to him. They've all, Aubrey Burks, they all been saying, and he has the NFL in mind, but they keep saying their number one goal is Big 12 title. And that's what you want as a fan, but if that's the case, then yeah, it does feel like this season is more of a business situation than to have some fun. It's almost like, Ethan, when a team is preparing for a Super Bowl appearance, you kind of can tell which one of these teams is happy to be there. They feel like they already accomplished the conference title. They're having some fun. They're all over social. They're hanging out in the city. They're on every freaking show. And the New England Patriots, look at their track record when they were in those games with Bill Belichick. I mean, it was under wraps, and they won a lot of them. So is it a business trip for you, or are you already feeling comfortable having some fun and it's kind of a vacation? The teams that win championships, usually it's a business trip. So maybe this whole 2024 season is like a business trip for the Mountaineers. And yes, realistically, you lose to Penn State, your season's not over. You win the Big 12, you're still in the playoff. The out-of-conference games don't mean as much. But it feels like to this team, it does. They want to prove something. They keep wanting to prove these doubters wrong, and they really want to make a statement. And if that is the case for you, then maybe this business-like attitude is the way to go. So it's kind of annoying sitting there as a media member, but from a fan perspective, I think the fans should like this. Because the worst thing you can do is be a favorite in a game like they're going to be against Pitt, or even as an underdog, but you're at home against Penn State, and then you say something that you accidentally step in it, and then you got bulletin board material, and then the national media is going to just pump it day after day leading into the game, and then all of a sudden you're caught off guard, they're more motivated, and you get upset. Like, that would be doomsday. They're really trying to avoid that, it seems, going into this year.
Well, I think also coming off of last season when they were predicted last in the conference, and then doing what they did, almost 10-win season without the Hail Mary from Houston.
I mean, again, it should have been 10 wins. Yeah. Yeah.
Or an Ollie Gordon fourth quarter, just incredible stretch. So
right.
them coming off that season where nobody expected them to do anything, it's surprising that naturally their reaction is to not come into this season all just hyped up about how they're going to have a good year again.
Yeah, they're not feeling themselves as much as maybe they could be.
And maybe the coaching staff has tried to check their egos, and it's a new season, so and it's a harder schedule. So I think for them, they want to prove people wrong, but at the same time, it's a little surprising that they're not coming into this season on cloud 9 off of last year.
Yeah, but I do think as a fan, you should like that, because if they were coming in feeling themselves and saying, hey, we were supposed to be 14th, we end up winning 9 games, we showed you we're better than you would have thought. You know, they're going on social media and kind of trolling people that were against them last year, and they're just Kevin Durant all over the place. That's fine if you're Kevin Durant, but that wouldn't necessarily be fine when you're still a program trying to prove yourself, and you still got to get to the mountain peak. You're not yet there. I mean, you look at it this way, Ethan, this is what I'm sure Neal Brown is telling them. You won 9. It should have been more. Winning 9 got you 25th in the coaches poll, not ranked the preseason poll going into the next season, and no rank in the AP poll. I'm sure he's telling them, hey, guys, if we would have actually won 10 or 11, if we would have won these games, we should have beat Houston. We should have beat Oklahoma State. We could have held on and won that game. It's not unreasonable. We were right there to win both of those 2 games, and we were way better than Houston. You win those, they probably are ranked. And you do it in this year, then, you know, you're probably in the playoff, you're vying for the Big 12, etc. But one little blemish can ruin all of that. So I'm sure he's pumping it in their brains that you showed everybody wrong. You proved everybody wrong. You showed everybody they were wrong. But 9 wins didn't really get you anything outside of a Duke's Mayo Bowl trophy and a Mayo bath for me. It didn't really do anything. This program has been in a lot better places than that. So do you want your legacy to be a Mayo bath? I mean, that's not going to how many ceremonies is WVU going to be having in the future to welcome you back for the Duke's Mayo Bowl win? I mean, a Big 12 title would be a whole different ball game. I mean, you would be celebrated forever. So there's still a lot in front of these players. I think they realize that, and I think maybe they also have had their egos checked that, hey, I'm sure Green was hearing it. Fans love him, 52.9%. That's not getting to the NFL. He wants the NFL. Aubrey Burks wants the league. He's getting more of an opportunity to showcase himself. These guys want the real bag, and to really live their dreams, they need to take care of business. And if all of that happens, this team should win. So I think they have a lot in front of them. And again, maybe not being ranked is better for these players and better motivation, easier for the coaching staff to kind of pump in their brains that 9 wins did not get you really anything. And yeah, it should have been 10. It should have been 11, but it wasn't. It was 9. And this year's schedule should be harder, although we will see what actually does occur. But it's a very interesting development that they are really to hear a note. I cannot remember, Ethan, basketball or football. I cannot remember a player ever really. I can't remember ever sitting there for any of these in college or pro media and hearing a no comment from a West Virginia athlete. But we got one today. So that does show you that, you know, they got a business-like attitude, but there's also pressure on this year because I think something else that exists as we'll kind of close on this, Ethan. Last year, they won 9. If they would even have just won 7, they could have yelled to everybody, okay, let's stay the course. We were supposed to be 14th. We're predicted to win 4-5 games at the most. We still proved you wrong. It wasn't a great year, but we still proved you wrong, even winning 7. Obviously, they ended up winning 9. If they win 7, 8, or 9 this year, it's going to be a disappointment. So the bar is way higher. They can't just be proving people wrong that they're good. People think they should be great.
People are expecting them to take that next step.
Right.
Virginia fans especially. Now, media and just fans around the country, they really don't necessarily know exactly what this West Virginia team is because
it's all over the place.
It's hard to judge them off of last year. Was that a fluke? Yeah. Or can they actually show consistency this year?
We will see, but I think they also know, and I think it's a good attitude. I think I like the business-like attitude, the Patriots-like vibe now that's developing with the season a couple weeks away. If you want to be a naysayer, just to throw this out there, not to make the show negative as we're going to close up shop here. Maybe, Ethan, maybe they're pressing. Maybe it's getting in their brain. Maybe they're feeling the heat. Maybe they're starting to realize these fans are going to be mad at us if we don't beat Penn State. That's a top 10 team. Maybe they think in their heart of hearts that's unreasonable. I know Brown thinks it's unreasonable that they got to beat Penn State to get ranked, but maybe they're starting to really have it get in their brain. And it's part of me that kind of thinks that that's why they're either going to play a really close game with Penn State and potentially even shock the world and beat them, or probably lose by 2 TDs like it's been. It could get away from them still. Maybe it'd even be worse because Penn State's probably here in 2. I mean, what's going on there? They're probably here, and West Virginia thinks they can really beat us this year. It's different than last year. They're more talented. We got to really shut them up. We got to make our own statement now that the Big Ten is a new conference, and we got to prove ourselves with more historic programs and more overall quality programs in our conference now. We couldn't win it before. Let's try to do this now and make that statement in week 1 on the road. So, I mean, Penn State wins that, and West Virginia does get some love in some of these polls. They're a top 5 team. So it goes both ways. I think it's good. I like it. But if you're a fan, you got to hope that it's not getting in their brains too much and they are not feeling the heat. And that's why they're kind of giving no comment and not wanting to answer these questions, because they really know that they don't have maybe as much room for error as did exist last year. They certainly can't have any penalties off taking a helmet off that would ruin a game this year. People would really freak out. So we will see what will occur. Again, like and subscribe this episode. Feel free to comment. We'll comment back to you. Also hit us up with our coverage, of course, of all of Mountaineer Athletics at WV Sports Now. And we are now, by the way, available everywhere you get your podcasts. So Apple, TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify, wherever, we're there. Even if you just want even a notepad, I believe we're available, or for notes if you want to just have notes read off to you of what we say here on the show. So we are there. Go ahead and download the podcast just in audio form as well. But again, hit us up, WV Sports Now, as we are now a little over 2 weeks until kickoff. I mean, it's coming up. It is absolutely coming up.